Beginning in the late 8th century and continuing into the late 11th century, the Vikings engaged in a number of rites that were quite unique. It is well knowledge that the Vikings were ferocious warriors who had a reputation for plundering countries and brutalizing the people who lived there. These harsh, seafaring Scandinavians would kill dozens of people in gruesome rituals and put their victims through some fairly horrific torments. What is known is that the Norse religion practiced a number of bizarre rituals throughout the Viking Age, as well as a few peculiar customs that were unique to the Vikings themselves. However, these rituals and customs are associated with the Viking Age. Even the most vicious pirates had a sensitive and superstitious element to their personalities. They had a strong belief in omens and made use of lucky charms. The same Norse paganism that ingrained in them the rituals of sacrificing animals also taught them to revere the land on which they lived. They were successful farmers who also enjoyed sports such as skiing and making things with their hands. It was unusual for the historical period, yet women held a significant amount of influence within their society and were accorded a high level of respect. They lived in a society that was well-ordered and democratic, yet they occasionally engaged in scary Norse rites. These rituals were a part of their culture. The Viking chief cremation ceremony involved sex and sacrifice. When a chief passed away, one of his slave girls would voluntarily offer to accompany him to the afterlife and take his place. In order for her to accomplish it, a practice that was really unsettling had to take place first. During the time when preparations for the cremation ritual were being made, the girl was taken care of and given a variety of alcoholic beverages in a steady stream. Following this, the young woman would take part in sexual rites, during which she would have intercourse with each man in the community before being strangled to death. After that, the village matriarch stabbed her, and her body, together with that of the chief, was placed on a wooden ship where it was set ablaze, and then the ship was towed out to sea. Because of this, it was guaranteed that she would continue to serve her master even after death in the hereafter. The Viking sexual rites were the embodiment of the method in which the chieftain's life force was transformed. Every 9 years, 81 people were sacrificed during Yule. At the beginning of the 9th year, at the celebration of Yule, it was traditional for Swedish kings to perform human sacrifices at the Temple of Uppsala. The 9 severed heads would then be presented as an offering to the deities, while the bodies would be hung in the holy grove of the temple. This would take place over the course of 9 days, culminating in a total of 81 sacrifices that were accompanied by feasts and Yule celebrations. The blood eagle was a gruesome execution method. The blood eagle is a sacrificial method of execution that is mentioned in Norse mythology to have been performed in the name of the deity Odin. Historians are unsure as to whether or not this type of death was truly carried out, or whether it was only a fiction that was propagated to strike fear into the hearts of opponents. What is known is that the academics of the time period detailed the rite in such extensive detail that it is difficult to think that it did not take place. These excruciating deaths were often reserved for meting out punishment to dishonorable persons or for exacting vengeance on a dangerous adversary. The victim was first forced to lie on his back and then restrained while a carving in the shape of an eagle with its wings spread out was made into his back. After that, a pointed device was used to carefully dissect each rib and detach it from the spine. After every rib was removed, the remaining ribs were dragged outward to give the impression that the bird had wings that protruded from its back. After the victim was still conscious and in excruciating pain, his lungs were removed from the huge hole in his chest and placed on top of his wings. As he breathed his last breaths and passed away, this created the impression that his wings were fluttering as they should have been. Warding off the draugr involved scissors, twigs, and needles. A draugr might be thought of as the equivalent of a zombie in Norse mythology, but not just any zombie, rather a large, savage Viking zombie with beautifully lie-dyed locks and an obscenely putrid odor that enjoys wreaking havoc by murdering people, killing animals, and destroying property. There are a number of procedures that can be followed to stop this from happening. It is recommended that you conceal twigs within the garments of the recently departed person. It is also possible to ward off draugrs by placing an open pair of scissors on the target's chest, or by driving needles into the soles of their feet. There were various methods that could be used to attempt to confuse the beast, such as raising and lowering the coffin in 3 different orientations and ensuring that the body's big toes were tied together. The blot was a huge sacrifice meant to show gratitude to the gods. Because the blot consisted of offering a blood sacrifice to the gods as a sign of appreciation, it was carried out in public on numerous occasions throughout the course of each year. In most cases, the slaughtering of animals took place atop a stone altar. A bowl was used to catch the blood, which was then passed around for everyone to sip on while chanting continued. After that, they would chant some more over the carcass before pouring its own blood over it and passing it around again. The magnitude of appreciation was directly proportional to the amount of the kill. Berserkers raided towns like beasts. The Berserkers were a type of warrior shaman, but in order to access their powers, they had to go through a ritual that represented their death and rebirth. In order to accomplish this goal, they were put in perilous circumstances in the wild and expected to live their lives as their totem animal would if it were to survive there. They would have to hunt and raid the adjacent communities like a beast would, whether they were bears or wolves. They deliberately emptied themselves of all humanity and morality in order to transform themselves into barbarians on both a physical and an emotional level. They behaved like wild animals on the battlefield, going mad because they had neither fear nor armor to protect them. Vikings painted their teeth. There have been discoveries of approximately 25 skeletal remains dating back to the time of the Vikings that have horizontal grooves purposefully filed into the surfaces of the front teeth. It is thought that they utilized a variety of dyes in order to color in the grooves. Vikings repurposed their urine. The ancient Vikings figured out how to use their own urine to start fires. To do this, a fungus that grows on tree bark and is known as touchwood was boiled in a pot of urine for many days. After that, it was crushed into a strip of material that had a felt-like consistency. The presence of sodium nitrate in urine caused these fungus bombs to smolder instead than burn, which allowed the Vikings to carry fire with them wherever they went. Battle rituals involved magic and sacrifice. The Viking warriors were known for their strong superstitious beliefs and the use of magic in battle rites. They would begin by searching for and interpreting any probable omens before acting in a manner that was fitting for each one. After that, they would make it a point to affix enchanting symbols to each and every one of their weapons before taking them into battle. The emblems were representations of tenacity, good fortune, and bravery. Last but not least, prior to battle, they would offer sacrifices, which traditionally consisted of powerful creatures such as boars, stallions, or bulls. Viking men dyed their hair blonde. Every society has its own idea of what constitutes attractiveness, and the people who ruled the oceans were no exception. It would appear that the preference for blonde hair among Viking men was so strong that they would use caustic soaps with a high lye content to bleach their hair by removing the hair's natural color and effectively lightening it. Additionally, they would color their beards to coordinate, because they were also effective against head lice. These soaps were able to treat 2 distinct hair conditions with only a single substance. We hope you liked this video, subscribe to the channel if you're a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.